This day and time. What happened today, years ago?
You know how sometimes a single date it just seems to resonate, right?
Yeah.
Echoing through history.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly one of those dates,
Mm-hmm.
June 25th. And what's really fascinating, I think, is how this one day holds three incredibly different but equally important moments.
Yeah, moments that really shaped nations, defined legacies.
Exactly. And even amplified one single powerful voice.
Right.
We've gathered some really insightful sources on these different events, and our goal today is basically to unpack the stories behind June 25th.
Okay.
We're talking about a huge battle, a victory and a loss at the same time, really.
Yeah.
Then the quiet publication of a diary that, well, it became this global symbol.
The beacon. Yeah.
And also a really tense vote that kind of laid the groundwork for American freedoms. So, yeah, let's get into it.
It is pretty striking how these things that seem totally unrelated, like, you know, a battle, a book, a political vote, all land on this one calendar day. And each one leaves this deep, sometimes pretty surprising legacy. We'll dig into the specifics of each one, the people involved, and maybe most importantly, what these moments tell us about, well, conflict, memory.
And how nations are even formed.
Exactly. This deep dive should give you a good shortcut to understanding these key points in history.
Okay, so let's kick things off with that dramatic clash. We're going back to 1876, the Battle of Little Bighorn.
Custer's last stand, as it's often called, though we'll get into that name.
Right. And our sources really highlight this wasn't just some random fight. It was more like the explosion after years of broken promises.
Definitely. You had the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868. That was supposed to guarantee the sacred Black Hills to the Lakota and other tribes forever.
Supposed to. But then gold was discovered.
And suddenly, that forever promise, well, it seemed to evaporate. The U.S. government pushed hard. First, they tried to buy the Black Hills.
Which was sacred land, not for sale.
Exactly. And then came the ultimatum. Winter 1875, any Native American not on a reservation was declared hostile. That really forced the issue.
And it led to this incredible gathering, right?
Mm-hmm.
The sources talk about over 10,000 Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho people coming together.
Yeah, along the Little Bighorn River, the greasy grass, as they called it, a massive alliance.
Yeah, it wasn't just about numbers, though, was it? There was a powerful spiritual side to this gathering, too.
Absolutely. A key thing our sources mention is Sitting Bull's vision during a Sundance.
Ah, yeah.
He saw soldiers falling like grasshoppers into their camp, a clear omen of victory, so Sitting Bull provided that spiritual leadership.
While Crazy Horse was more the battlefield commander.
Precisely. He was the primary military strategist there, planning the defense.
So June 25th, 1876, the battle itself starts. And Custer, with his, 700 soldiers or so?
Yeah.
He makes a big tactical error.
A huge one. He divided his forces, split them into 4 separate groups to attack this massive, unified encampment.
Doesn't sound like a recipe for success.
No. Major Reno led one attack. It faltered almost immediately, turned into a chaotic retreat.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Custer's own group, they got completely cut off, surrounded, and, well, just like the vision predicted, wiped out.
And the whole last stand idea, the glorious defense on the hill.
Yeah, the popular legend paints that picture. But our sources are pretty clear. The bodies were found scattered all over the hillside. It wasn't some heroic final stand in one spot. It was more of a desperate running fight, a rout.
Wow. So the immediate result, brutal. All 268 U.S. soldiers with Custer killed. And the reaction back east must have been intense.
Oh, absolutely explosive. Massive outrage. It triggered this huge military crackdown, retaliation against all the tribes.
But looking bigger picture,
Right.
was this actually a victory for the Native American tribes in the long run? Or did it maybe backfire?
And that's the really crucial, tragic point. It was a stunning tactical victory on the day, no question, but it became what we call a Pyrrhic victory.
Meaning the cost was too high.
Exactly. The cost was devastating. The tribes were scattered, hunted down relentlessly, eventually forced onto reservations, and critically, the Black Hills were seized illegally.
And that illegality was even confirmed later, right?
Yes, the U.S. Supreme Court itself ruled in 1980 that the seizure was unlawful. They offered monetary compensation.
But the Lakota refused the money.
Consistently, they continued to demand the return of their sacred land. So this battle, It's not just about who won or lost on June 25th, 1876. It's a stark lesson in how a short-term win can lead to catastrophic long-term loss and deep injustice.
Yeah. It really forces you to ask what victory even means, especially for groups pushed to the margins.
A sobering thought.
Okay, so from the battlefield echoes in Montana, our journey through June 25th takes a completely different turn. We're shifting to a quiet act, but one with just as much power in its own way.
Right.
The publication of a diary, 1947, same day, June 25th, Anne Frank's diary, first published in the Netherlands as Het Achterhuis.
The secret annex. And what's so powerful is the context, isn't it? Her family hiding in Amsterdam, 1942 to 44.
Just trying to survive.
Yeah. And she starts writing on her 13th birthday. The entries capture all that universal teenage stuff, angst, dreams, just everyday life.
But under the most unimaginable circumstances.
Right.
The Holocaust unfolding right outside their hiding place.
Exactly. That mix of the ordinary and the extraordinary horror it's incredibly moving.
And it's amazing we even have it. The sources confirm, after the family was arrested in 44, it was Miep Keys.
One of their helpers, yeah.
She went back and found the diary pages scattered on the floor and saved them.
Right.
Just incredible bravery and foresight.
Truly remarkable. And Otto Frank, Anne's father, the only survivor from the family, he made the decision to publish it.
Honoring her wish, right?
Yeah.
Didn't she want to be a writer?
Yes, she'd heard a radio broadcast encouraging people to keep wartime diaries for posterity. It's also interesting, there were sort of 3 versions floating around her original raw diary, a version Anne herself started editing for potential publication, and then Otto Frank's version, which combined and edited elements for that first publication.
So June 25th, 1947, it comes out. Het Achterhuis. And the legacy since then is just immense.
Unbelievable. Translated into over 70 languages, over 35 million copies sold worldwide.
How did this one young girl's private thoughts become such a fundamental text for understanding the Holocaust and human rights globally?
I think it's because Anne, despite being murdered simply for being Jewish, left behind this incredibly potent symbol of hope and just humanity, even in the absolute darkest of times.
Mixed personal.
Exactly. Her words give you this direct, unfiltered window into what it was like. It makes the unimaginable somehow relatable, especially for younger readers. It ensures those lessons are learned, remembered through the eyes of a child. It's just the enduring power of a single voice.
Yeah. Okay, now let's pivot one more time. We're staying with June 25th, but jumping back further to 1788, a really foundational moment for American democracy.
Virginia ratifies the U.S. Constitution.
Right. Our sources explain, the first attempt, the Articles of Confederation, that wasn't really working. Too weak.
Yeah, pretty ineffective. So a new constitution gets drafted in 1787, but it needed approval. 9 out of the 13 states had to say yes for it to become law.
And Virginia's vote. It was a big deal.
Oh, absolutely pivotal. It was the most populous state, hugely influential. Its decision carried enormous weight. Honestly, without Virginia, the Constitution's legitimacy, maybe the whole Union, would have been really shaky.
And the debate inside Virginia sounds like it was intense. You had these big figures, the Anti-Federalists, Patrick Henry, George Mason.
Yeah, heavy hitters.
Yeah.
And they were deeply worried. They saw the potential for this new central government to become way too powerful, maybe tyrannical.
So they were digging their heels in.
They were adamant. They demanded a Bill of Rights, explicit protections for individual liberties before they'd agree. They really feared government overreach.
Okay, so that's one side. Who was pushing for the Constitution as written?
That was the Federalist camp, figures like James Madison leading the charge. They argued that the Constitution's structure, the checks and balances, were enough, and that a strong central government was vital for national stability.
That they were willing to bend a bit.
Well, the sources show they understood how strong the opposition was. They realized they probably needed to compromise to get Virginia on board.
So June 25th, 1788, the vote happens in Virginia.
Yeah.
And it was close.
Incredibly close. 89 in favor, 79 against. So they ratified the Constitution. But, and this is crucial, it came with a strong recommendation attached. They formally requested 20 amendments and a separate Declaration of Rights.
Okay, so it sounds like a win for the Federalists who got the ratification, but the Anti-Federalists really forced their hand on the rights issue.
That's exactly it. It's fascinating because technically the Anti-Federalists lost the vote on ratification itself, But you could argue that they ultimately won't on the core principle.
How far?
Their fierce insistence basically cemented the idea that, okay, yes, we need a stronger government, but it absolutely must be balanced by clearly defined, guaranteed human rights.
And that led directly to the Bill of Rights.
Directly. James Madison, who was a key Federalist, remember?
Right.
He took the lead in drafting the Bill of Rights just a few years later in 1791. And he incorporated many of those demands from the Virginia Anti-Federalists. Freedoms like speech, religion, fair trial, the things we now see as fundamental.
So it's a great example of how sometimes losing a vote doesn't mean you lose the argument in the long run.
Precisely. It shows how principled opposition, even in defeat, can fundamentally shape the future and embed crucial values into law.
Okay, so let's try and bring these very different June 25th moments together. What are the connections here?
Well, first, Little Bighorn.
Yeah, that brutal Pyrrhic victory. A tactical win for the tribes that day.
But tragically leading to devastating cultural loss and the illegal taking of the Black Hills.
A wrong that, as you said, even the Supreme Court acknowledged, but it's still not fixed. The Lakota still demand the land, not money. It's an ongoing fight for justice.
Right. Then, totally different mood, you have The Quiet Power of Anne Frank's diary.
Published June 25th, 1947. Het Achterhuis. Becomes this global symbol of hope, humanity.
And a vital tool for Holocaust education. Translated everywhere, millions sold. All because Miepke saved it and Otto Frank saw its importance.
And then, the third piece, Virginia ratifying the Constitution, June 25th, 1788.
That nail-biting 89-79 vote, crucial for the USA's formation.
But it came with that demand for rights. Pushed by the anti-federalists like Henry and Mason, they lost the vote.
But won the principle, leading directly to Madison drafting the Bill of Rights in 1791, embedding those essential freedoms, speech, religion, fair trial, right into the heart of the Constitution.
It really is incredible, one single date holding such a huge range of human experience.
Yeah, you've got the terrible cost of conflict and the long struggle for justice.
The surprising, enduring power of just one voice speaking out against darkness.
And the messy, difficult, but necessary work of building a society based on liberty, often through tough compromises.
So, connecting this all to the bigger picture, it really raises a question for you listening right now. How many other dates on the calendar, dates that seem ordinary, might actually hold similar clusters of really important world-shaping events?
Yeah, just waiting for someone to uncover those layers, this hidden connection. What other hidden histories are out there just waiting for a deep dive?
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more history daily.